Well, how do we win the fight? Not that it's a fight, but how do we influence those younger people and the generation coming up and wanting to get into YouTube and maybe having, steering towards that kind of purposeful intent rather than the clickbait intent?
By doing it yourself, by actually like walking the walk and having these conversations is good for artists in general. But I think like for me, I'm very motivated by the people that I'm inspired by, which kind of makes sense. But like when I sit down and talk to somebody who I'm very like, wow, that was such a cool person. I love their personality. Like if it clicks, then I'm kind of like, oh, what are they doing with all the things in their life, not just creating? And so it's really important for me to like look at the people that I'm surrounded by and be like, wow, like Luke, again, my best friend, he makes the most incredible things. He's a just genuine person, and he doesn't have to fake it. And so if Luke were to tell me like, it's really important for me to be real on my and tell my story in films, I would be like, I love Luke. He's a genuine person. If he's telling me this, there must be some substance to it. And so I feel like the more you express it and the more you tell people to just make films that bring them life, and make art that brings them life, even if it's not writing or getting you paid immediately. If you're doing that enough, like you're going to be fulfilled in the long term because again, regardless of if the video blew up or not, you have this piece that you can look back and be like, I did that.
Mm.
Because my second biggest video on my channel is an office tour, which has the second most views.
Oh, people
And
love
I'm
that,
never
don't
gonna,
they?
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
they love
but
it.
I'm never gonna look back at my office tour and be like, I fucking did that, man. I made that office tour, dude. I showed people my
Get a
fucking
great
I
table.
showed them my desk setup, dude. It was sick. It was so cool the way I laid out my monitor with the lights behind it. It was wild. So there's definitely, and I think people just very easily correlate like high views with good, high
They
followers
do.
with talented,
Yeah.
high, and like that's just not the case at all. And most of the time, the pieces of work that I make that have connected the most with people aren't even close to the ones that blow up the most, which is really important to me because I'm like, okay, sure, it didn't get a million views. It only got 10,000 views or 20,000 or 30,000 views. But those people of those 30,000 views, you look at the comments, there's 1,000 comments. And like, that's a crazy, like, that's how many people it impacted. And then who's not John Bellion? There's a British singer that's blowing up right now. I don't know who he is.
In
I'm
the
trying.
charts?
Yeah, yeah. No, he does all this. Jacob
Oh,
Collier.
Jacob
Yeah,
Collier.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He said in a podcast where he was just like, it's not about how many people I reach. It's of those people, how many did I truly inspire? And
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, that's just the perfect quote to just encapsulate like, depth besides width. Where you're like, all right, even if it's a small audience, am I really, really connecting with that small audience? And if the answer is yes, you don't need a huge audience to make it, quote unquote, in the artistic world. Because if you have an audience that's truly dedicated, the 100 true followers or 1,000 true followers or whatever,
Thousand Tree fans.
yeah,
Yeah.
1,000 true fans, 1,000 true fans. I
Thousand
just
True
have an
fans.
aneurysm
It's
right there.
getting on.
Yeah, it's so true though, right? So,
It is really true, but it's very difficult to see wood through the trees, right? When
mm-hmm.
you're starting out, especially, and that's who I worry about the most is without being too generalist or generationalist. Is that a word?
Sure,
But
there's
yeah,
always a word for something nowadays, right?
I was being over 40 now. I'm like, the youngsters, they don't know anything. Of course they do. They know a lot more than me. But one thing it's very easy to walk into the trap of is what we've been talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's being on your phone all day, being glued to
Yeah, yeah,
everything, right? Especially social media. How many likes did I get? Like checking all the time. I know people that like will check every 10-minute post, check every 10 minutes how many likes did I get. Like
mm-hmm.
that can't be right. But I don't see, and I get it. Like especially the youngsters who've been brought up, they don't know a life that isn't without social media, that is without social media. So I get it, I understand it, and I empathize. But I don't see a way to kind of get through to them, especially that thousand true fan thing, because you can say that and just go, oh, shit, that's bullshit. I want
Yeah.
100,000, right? And I get it, but I just don't know how to get it through to them, right? Other than people like you and hopefully podcasts and people who are able to listen and watch and learn, willing to learn,
Mhm.
and that's half problem, isn't it? People willing to educate themselves on the deeper meaning of these things, and
If everyone in the industry is saying, if you stick with it and really love what you're doing and you stick with it long enough, you'll be all right, then there's probably some truth. And there's luck involved in everybody's story, and it's not going to work out for everybody. But if the longer you stick with it, your odds keep going up and up and up,
yep,
then there's probably some truth in that.
yep,
And I know it's really frustrating to to hear the grass is greener when you stick it out when you're starting. But if you're starting and you're coming, like again, I was making videos with my best friends, and I didn't ever think about like, you know, I started early, which was amazing. I was lucky. I was in college. Everything was paid for by my student loans, so I didn't have to worry about it yet. And so I just making cool shit with my friends, and it was from this genuine place of enthusiasm. And I know a lot of people don't have that. However, you can still have that enthusiasm. That enthusiasm isn't bound to an age or a place in your life or a you can make films about if you have children. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to travel the world. I can't because I have kids." Two things. I didn't tell you to have fucking kids. That's not my problem. The second thing is you can still make film. Like if the kid is what you really, if you're
yeah,
passionate about being a dad, you can make passionate films about like being a dad and
yeah.
raising children. And like, it's not like the passion dies when you're doing it. It's like, if you wanted to be a family man, that's your decision. Like, how do you build on that? How can you make it? Yeah.